Games from the Cellar, the board gaming podcast.
Hi, Steven.
Steven, we miss you.
We're sorry about last episode.
We're taking the opportunity to play a game you hated, I think.
Well, he didn't hate it. He just didn't want to play it.
Yet again, we might have 10 minutes
Did
of
he play it?
BS
No,
into
he never
the
played
microphone
it.
before we start.
Okay. We cleaned it up, and then it came back out.
Oh,
and
yeah, he
that's
did
when we were
play
playing
it.
disc golf. He did not want to play it.
I shouldn't say hated. He indicated several times
He had no interest. Versus at least other
Well,
games.
that's okay. It didn't
Maybe it'll give him
look
nightmares,
like
I
his
don't know.
thing.
I have nightmares.
Maybe
of
he got
Samuel
trapped
killing
in an
me.
old mansion once,
Over
and
and
it
over
brings
again.
back.
I dream of that too.
Unrelated to the game. This has been happening for years.
So what is the game that we have out on the table?
Oh, good lord!
Terrorscape.
Terrorscape. Yeah, it's a Kickstarter with way too much stuff,
Just enough.
and
I
it's a.
mean, no, I
That's
think
right.
the giant cardboard three-dimensional mansion stand really adds to the table presence.
With the built-in dice tower. You said table presence?
I did say table presence.
That's a 2-minute minor.
I'll be quiet.
We'll take that later.
It has a dice tower built in. It has a little spot to put like the run like hell things for when you get the radio fixed. It's got a spot to put cards as you find keys, because keys come on cards, so you line your cards up there. So it's kind of like a heads-up display for everything that's going on. And it includes the 3 poor, helpless souls that have once again wandered into a horror movie so that each of us can see who we're playing up against.
Are those the same 3 that wandered into the
No.
rainy night mansion?
Into the mansion in the rain, yeah.
No, we switched out the old doctor for the...
And you got to start feeling bad for these people that you go scenario after scenario, and it's the same chumps that once again are fighting for their lives. They should have given you, even if they had the exact same skill set, they should have given you some extra art so you wouldn't feel bad putting these people through yet another dose of living hell.
I agree. That'd be funny. Counterpoint. We're Mystery Inc.
For what?
Mystery Inc.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. I'm Fred.
Yeah, you're Fred.
You're
yeah, I guess you
Daphne.
are Fred.
And
I'm
Cody's Velma.
Are you saying I'm the dog?
The dog.
You're
Or I'm
not
old
here.
man
You're
Winters
scrappy.
or something?
Yeah, you're old man Winters.
No, you're...
I would have got away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids.
Yeah.
Well, you're a plant this time. I'm not sure they ever actually.
He's a man in a plant costume.
Yeah, I'm a man in a plant costume.
Yeah, that's,
Several.
okay.
plant ghosts.
Yeah. We just haven't met Scooby yet.
Yeah.
So the baddie wins
Will
by
unmask.
killing one of us.
Yes.
Okay,
The
that never
baddie-
happened in Scooby-Doo. I mean, so
Well, not in any
So
episodes
this
we
is
saw.
a horror movie where people get killed, but not everybody. Most horror movies, you get down to one last person that survives, maybe 2. This one person's dead. The baddie wins, and
You
in
just
this
give up.
case, you are a carnivorous plant, and this is one of the expansion bad guys.
Yes, this came with the Kickstarter all in. They came with 3 expansions. So this is the first one. We've played the base game. You and I played it, twice before people came down?
Yeah,
And
2 or 3 times.
The murderer was unsuccessful. And then we played it down there, and I think Sam was the first murderer to be successful.
I
Yeah.
was successful twice or 3 times?
Twice. He killed me twice.
Okay,
Nothing
yeah.
personal.
It felt
Because
personal the second time.
weren't able, as the baddies, we weren't able to do it. At one point, I got pretty powered up, but at that point, you were already on your way out, and you just managed to close
I got
the door.
pretty lucky the second time.
Yeah, it doesn't. There isn't a lot of things that cause you to make noise, and you don't really know what's going on. And if the survivors play it right, they don't really give it away. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm excited to
potential's
bring a
there.
new creature into the world.
So in a nutshell, there's 3 hapless human beings that have wandered into a horrible place, regardless of which scenario you're playing. They have to wander around the mansion, or in this case, they're wandering around a mine that got turned into a bio laboratory. And you have to either find your keys to get the way out, or turn on the generator, or fix the radio to find your way out. Meanwhile, the monster is trying to catch you, so there's a lot of hidden movement. So earlier, Cody was talking about this big cardboard mansion that was in the middle of the board, and the idea is that the bad guy can't see where we are, and we can't see where he is. We just pop up when we do something that clearly indicates where we are. So if you make noise, a noise token comes out. The bad guy has a way to kind of see about what part of the board you're in without knowing exactly what part of the board you're in. And, of course, he can rush into a room and go boo and hope to catch somebody off guard. And if you're in the same room as he is in, so he'll say, I jumped into the north corridor. And if somebody's in there, they go, oh, okay, you got me. And then you get beat up. And
Well, that's if I search, right? I just
Yes,
because I
that's
walk
just
into a
if
room,
you
you can
search.
hide from me.
And I think
have to-
there's a lot to say about about the asymmetry of how information is presented here, but that's probably best served for after we've played the game rather than before.
okay, then.
Can someone else die?
Well, hang on. Okay. We have now moved
In
on
game.
to... Okay.
In game.
So, Cody, you've played this game 3
End-game
times?
recording starts
4.
now.
4 times? How many times have you been the one to die?
The last 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the recording did not catch the fact that I said that I was going to murder you, but that's great.
It's true. Chris called it.
I called it on the last round.
That
when
you
I
were
said
going to kill Cody? Is that what you
SWAT
said?
wasn't going to be in time to
Remember,
save
I
you
was going to
because of
just say,
me.
oh, John, you're there. Never mind. I'm just going to go someplace else. Sam, how you doing? I'm going
That's
after Cody.
right. You did say that.
I did say that. So,
Yeah.
so we've played the game. We've finished.
Mhm.
Cody was murdered.
And
At
to
it
be
again.
fair, we
Strangled.
played on the ultra hard setting
We did. We played on nightmare mode, which gives the killer some advantages. And
that he used relatively heavily.
Cody died at the last possible turn, the last possible action.
Yes, the police were coming down the elevator to save us when Cody croaked.
Yes.
So we were that close. We had run out of cards.
Can you stop saying it?
It was, and we had managed to thread the needle.
If
We
he-
had managed to heal a couple of times to keep ourselves
Oh, yeah.
in the game. We had this in the bag.
If he'd taken like 2 steps to the left.
And then Cody died,
Even 1 step to the left.
killed by a plant.
Oh, man.
If I'd ripped down the block token instead of removing my fear, he
Yeah.
wouldn't have been there.
It's true.
If I'd have done literally
Oh,
anything
wow.
than what
You're
I
right.
did,
He would not have been able to teleport into that room.
Yeah, it's true.
Wow, it really is your fault.
entirely on me.
I
that
mean,
you
bad
guys
luck,
have another
but
loss on
it
your
was
record.
really your fault. Wow,
I mean,
okay.
it's not like
Jeez.
tearing down the block
Well-
token would have just drawn him to that area.
So we ran around. We ran in circles. We managed to get the generator up and running, like one at a time. Chris kept going down there and kept putting up blocks so that you couldn't get in and out. And Sam kept ripping those down. And we kept kind of working the 2 key locations that were pretty easy to go to. And we kind of just started working our way through the keys.
I felt like we had a really strong start, and then we
Yep.
just started
Dilly-dally
screwing around.
so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
and,
mean-
and we stopped pulling key cards when we were doing the search for keys, so that didn't
Yeah.
help any.
We
So
stopped
that
pulling
kind
key
of
cards.
stalled.
We stopped repairing the generator when it had 1 left.
There was one turn midway through the game where I could have played enough cards to get in there and finish it.
And
And I should have, and I didn't.
But
Early-
the toolbox lets you like double repair or something.
Oh, yeah, and they
but
were all the bottom.
I found a toolbox when we were
at one
at
point.
4
Yeah,
out
at
of
one
5.
point you
yeah.
deleted it.
Well, yeah, because we were at 4 to 5 already.
It didn't matter.
I did appreciate. Now, this killer doesn't have access to the sensing mechanic, which lets you kind of try and guess where the survivors are. Right, it's into like a little pane,
Which
and we have
kind
to tell
of
you.
removes my special ability,
Yeah, it kind of does.
which is not, I can't be sensed.
And you don't have access to stealth, which is really good for moving around. But I felt like all the blocks you're putting down on the core tokens, the fact that when we removed them, you kind of got an idea of where we are, that was a decent substitute.
Yeah,
actually.
it was.
Yeah, it took you a couple turns to get that started.
Yeah,
where
but
we were
once
just
Things
like,
outed, yep.
we were moving around
Yeah.
doing stuff, and we're like, what is he doing? He's just
Yeah,
walking
and then
around.
you just started locking down areas on the map. And I'm like, oh, okay, I see why this is bad. And I think the star of your deck was it the Frenzy?
Frenzy Vine.
Frenzy Vine,
It's
where
level
you
3
just
ability.
yeah, you unlock it after you've gone through your deck twice. So you're level 3, and then you deal damage to anywhere on the map where you have one of your plant tokens or there's a secret passage, which is
about half the map.
which is
usually.
about half the map, which is rough considering survivors have 2 health, right? So 1 guaranteed damage is really good, and I feel like that ability really won the game for you.
Yeah.
Which it made it, I kind of realized it's like, okay, don't put my core down on secret passages.
Yeah. Yeah, it adds another room.
Right, because it adds another room by doing that.
Which
And I even had the flashlight and could start using the secret passages, so I was in a position to kind of bop around in a hurry, which gets you to the key room.
except
real
once we
quick.
found it, it was like
it was getting relatively late, and
Late
at
in
that
the
point, it looked
game.
like the generator was going to do it. But the generator takes another 5 turns because
Yes.
all you do when you turn on the generator is now the cops can show up, but it takes the cops 5 turns to get there. Whereas if you get the keys, you jump in the elevator and you're out. So one more key, and we would have been out. We would have just had to get to the elevator lobby and
we
take off.
Maybe should have done a better job prioritizing one or the other.
Yeah. Well,
But that's how it goes.
well, with you doing the generator, I figured, okay, I'm doing the keys because I can pick up keys without making noise. So that's cool, and I can just keep grabbing keys. And Cody was going after keys as well.
I was trying.
Yeah,
I really wanted to get up to the 3rd key room, which was where he started. And I kind of got up there, and like it was a bit of a fake out, and I had to go back the other way.
Yeah.
But it distracted.
And
him for a
when
bit.
you left the generator, Sam, I'm like, okay, I can come around because all it's going to take is one generator. So I'll go in there and just bop it one more time. So I came around that corner, but before I had a chance to get in there, you got in there and you finished the job.
Yeah.
So that got that rolling.
So one of the things that I think is very interesting with this game is the way the asymmetry works, right? Because from a narrative standpoint, and like a classic haunted house, the killer's hunting the scared people throughout. The killer knows where the survivors are and stalks them through the area, and the survivors don't know where the killer is, right? And this game flips that, where the survivors know where the killer is at all times, and the killer is trying to figure out where the survivors are, which is, I think, is a very interesting. It's an interesting inversion, and it really kind of makes it not feel like a horror game in a lot of ways, I think.
Oh, I've never once been like afraid.
Yeah.
It just gets to a point where it's like, I might be the reason we die, and I am.
Yeah. But
Might?
1 out of the 4, I wasn't.
it's an interesting game, but it's an odd inversion where playing as the killer a lot of the times, at least when I was playing, right? I mean, you don't really feel very powerful necessarily. You just kind of feel like you're stumbling around in the dark, hoping you run into somebody.
Yeah, you feel like you're
in
in the,
this game.
In this game,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas in other horror games, you feel like you're under control. And
I feel like the hunter in this is the person in the middle of a game of keep away.
right? It feels like you're just getting yanked around,
Well,
and you're
that
trying to
and
catch
hide
them,
and go
catch them
seek.
out.
And if I don't search a room, then I don't find you.
Yeah.
If I can walk into a room and I can walk into the next room and you could be standing there,
and
and I have no idea.
And Sam kept doing that. He kept walking up and standing in the room that you were in.
I did keep standing in the same row as you.
Yeah. So every time you moved, you just moved away
this is
from
good
him.
future.
It's a good trick to have because and it's interesting because as the killer, you really don't get any information.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and at times that's what I found when I was playing the killer in prior games. It's like it just became frustrating. It's like I guess I don't know. I can't tell anything. And so if the survivors are at all smart, they're making noise in one corner one turn, and then the other corner the other turn, and they kind of have you slinging back and forth, and you can't be reactive like that, or you just drive yourself insane and never find them.
I will say I think this map is a little bit different than the core map because the core map I feel is a lot more connected.
Oh, yes.
Whereas this map, like if you're going over to the top left into the bio laboratory, I mean you've put some effort into
You're off
getting
in the
in
woods.
there,
Yeah.
right? Like
You're a long way away.
if I make noise in the bio laboratory, the killer can safely assume like he knows where I am, right? And there's only two paths
out.
I can take to get
one of
out.
which makes noise just to walk
right,
through it.
one of which makes noise. So you can figure it out. Whereas on the core map, everything's connected to like 2 or 3 other rooms at least, and there's so many different paths you can take.
Now, however, that leaves you a great route for the throwing a bottle. Well, you can throw a bottle in the room that makes the noise and go the other way
That's true. You could do that. Yeah.
Yep.
if you have the right item.
So it's interesting, and I think the plant especially works really well for this map because there are so many choke points.
Yeah.
You can shut things down.
I really tried to shut down the southeast corner.
Yeah, I don't know why you're so determined to cut off access to the lounge. That was kind of funny. In
Which
the
one's
top
the
right
one?
corner.
I mean, at any point,
Well, 'cause it's
he
the
kind
key
of
room.
targeted a corner. Yeah,
Right,
There's
I
a key
just-
room. There's
yeah.
the generator room.
I just thought it was funny compared. You could you put down 2 blockers there when you could have just blocked off access to that corridor.
Yeah, it gave me that teleport ability.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which I wanted to be able to get over there because I could focus my time over by the bio laboratory or in those rooms with the office and the main laboratory.
Almost, yeah.
So the cores are talking about is you have little plant buds that you can put anywhere onto the map. Now, those gave you the ability to teleport to that room, and also you could do your big bomb damage, which essentially
Not to the rooms with the walls, but with the cores.
Yeah, to the plant tokens.
And the cores
right, the plant tokens. That's what the cores are. I'm not sure why they're called cores, but they're essentially your little plantlets.
It's
your
basically
buds.
part of me, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the
you're
idea.
you're all one growth.
Yeah.
So, and that allowed you to cause fear. No, cause fear to anybody anywhere, and it allowed you to cause damage to any of those rooms that had those.
Which
in them.
is-
so that's 5 rooms.
It's a really powerful ability, and it worked out as a lot of area denial, which is really useful. In the core game, they had, what was it, the assassin? There was one of the killers who also had a lot of his power budget tied up into a single card.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, he stealthed, and then when he showed up, he murdered he automatically killed any survivor in his room or an adjacent room.
Yeah.
Which is really powerful, but means that aside from that, he's kind of really lame.
Yeah.
Just because that one card is so powerful. And this wasn't quite that, but it did kind of seem like you were forced to wait around for that card to cycle back through your deck.
Yeah, fortunately, it came out at the end of a time when I was getting ready to shuffle, and then I
Yeah.
got it 2 turns later. Because if
Yeah.
I hadn't gotten it, then
Right. It seems like a lot of your power is tied up in that threat of, oh, we can't be in these rooms because he could just deal damage to them. And once you've played it, we don't have to worry about that for a while, which is, I guess, not bad game design, but it makes it really important for us to count the cards you play and how many you're drawing and be aware of that, which I don't love.
So this is one of the expansions along to the base game. So the base game comes with 3
different-
bad guys.
different
Yeah,
bad
3 different
And
bad guys.
5 different good guys that have to survive. And one of the things I mentioned earlier was that you sort of, when we were doing this and going into the new map with the new bad guy, I'm like, oh, these poor people.
It's the
they
same 5
survived
guys.
the other stuff and they're stuck. It's like I feel really bad for them, and I almost wish they had created different people, even if they had the exact same abilities, just a different face and
Yeah,
a different
just
name.
just a couple.
So that you don't feel like these, one sequel after another, they're stuck once again being in a place that they need to get out of without
It's
getting
almost
murdered.
like the Scream franchise. We're saying it seems like 1 or 2 people keep surviving every movie.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
this
you
case,
think-
it's 5.
you,
but
you think by the time they'd gotten to that 4th or 5th movie, they'd be just, whatever, just make it quick.
yeah.
I'm just so tired.
I will say I did, because this is the expansion, I appreciated the design here, right? I think this killer was probably more interesting than 2 of the killers in the base game.
What do you think's more interesting, the Siren?
Yeah, is it the Siren?
Something
The
like that.
Banshee,
The woman that
ghost
screams
lady?
her head off. Yeah.
Ghost
I think
Whale.
she's probably the most interesting of the base killers.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Because the guy with the chainsaw and the Jack-in-a-Box assassin just didn't seem terribly interesting to play as or against. You're basically just hoping that you win the guessing game.
Yeah, and she just fears you to death.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
that's how
she-
she.
It really applies pressure, but also can't really do much to you if you're... Like, she can't really kill you. She's just going to scare you to death.
Yeah.
Which is more interesting. And then I think this map is more interesting. So overall, I'm pleased with this. It was a good expansion.
there's one more new monster in this one.
The Unknown.
Please tell me it's not the unknown.
It is not the unknown. Unidentified.
Totally
Okay.
different from the Unknown.
Yes. And then we do have 2 more expansions that came with the set as well.
So there's a fair chunk of alien here, along with your standard trope sort of bad guys that you would expect to find in the Haunted Mansion. So I have no clue what the base game would cost if you were buying now for this. But it comes with that big mansion in the middle. So this is going to take up a fair chunk of your storage space. You're probably going to have like a plastic bin that you're going to keep these pieces in, just because
yeah,
you don't
there's-
want to keep reassembling and
I mean, honestly, I'm tempted
disassembling.
to say just replace the mansion in the middle with the GM screen.
But I mean, it's an interesting piece. I
It's
have enough room
interesting.
down here.
Yeah, but if you're short on space, this is
So this is an all against one,
Yeah,
which
3v1.
means you need to decide if you've got that person in your group that enjoys being the one, that enjoys doing the killing instead of being the one working on a team trying to make something work the other way. So I don't know. I mean, as cooperative games go, I like this one better than most because the 3 team people really pretty much get to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, you're coordinating, but if somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to go over here and do this instead," you're like, "Yeah, all right, go ahead." I mean, it's not. There's nothing here that is burning for you to say, "No, whatever you do, don't do that." And of course, with the bad guy being able to listen to what you say, you can't say, "Don't go to the medical room. Are you crazy?" It kind of gives away your position.
Well, again, you could fake out.
And that is an interesting element to the game, that
It's social deception in a
it's
cooperative
social
game.
deception, because you do have the 3 people kind of whispering and pointing on one side of the table,
Mhm.
while the other one's on the other side of the table going, "What are they doing? What are they saying?"
Yeah.
So it would be, I think it's a very different experience to play this with friends than it would be to play with strangers.
And at the end here, Chris essentially just guessed a position. He had like one last turn to kill one of us.
And we made no noise in the last round. We could have been in anywhere.
We could have been anywhere.
We could have been anywhere.
We gave him 0 information to work with, and he just guessed a room and managed to land on one of us, Cody.
Yeah.
And that
Listen,
was
I don't normally like being the killer in games like this. I'm starting to think I'm going to have to be just to...
Give it
Well,
a try.
die.
I mean, I played.
Death does follow you.
I mean,
I played twice as a killer before this and was unsuccessful, and it was in the beginner, the
Yeah.
base set, and it was
Yeah.
very frustrating.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
at least this one, I felt like there was an opportunity for me to do some damage, but the issue that I had is it took me a while to get to that point, and then you all finished the stupid generator.
yeah, this guy has some build up to him.
So, do we want to call numbers and make final thoughts?
This was a Kickstarter. I'm getting kind of notorious for buying my Kickstarters.
You have another Kickstarter game on the table over there.
And 4.
That is taking hours
In
to get all the
progress.
cards set up.
4 more on the way.
And 4 more on the way. Yeah.
Well, one's a
On one account.
tabletop, something for the tabletop, and then the other 3 are games. One's a horse betting game.
You guys feeling up for an intervention at any point?
I've unsubscribed to all of my Kickstarter stuff, so
Chris, give me your password, and then I'm going to change it so you just can't log in.
don't worry, I have 2 accounts.
That's the problem.
Yes, that is-
Problematic.
The warning signs are piling up. And this is a typical Kickstarter game. I won't use the word bloatware, but it's big.
Yeah.
And it takes up a big space on your shelf, even when it's all packed up nice and tight.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, we kind of got away from...
The numbers.
Sorry,
We lost the plot.
I was given my number. It's a good 7 for me.
Okay. So Cody goes last because he's the one who made us lose. Sam, do you want to go next?
You're number 1 in my
keep
heart.
rubbing it in.
Sure. I enjoy this game, right? Not all of the killers, especially in the base game, are terribly interesting to play, but I like one versus many games. I like there's a little bit of social deception going on, and you have to especially I really like playing as the killer more than as a survivor, because as the killer, you really kind of narrow it down and figure out the possibilities, and I had a lot of fun actually tracking where the survivors could be based on what I thought their movement range could be and based on where I knew they were. That's a lot of fun. So I'm going to have to give it a 7, right? I don't think I'd buy it, but I'm more than happy to play it.
And that's an interesting statement. I don't think I'd store it. It's more than
that's
than
maybe
buy
more
it.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We have lots of room down here in the cellar.
We do have lots of room, and that's there's a lot of people that have big houses, and that's fine. I don't have this kind of storage space, so most of my games, one of the things I actually look for when I buy a game is the package, is how tight it is, and I don't mind larger than life games, but some larger than life games fit in smaller than life packages. So that's the kind of thing. That's one thing I look for, and that's a drawback for this game. It's one of those games that comes in a big cubic box that maybe isn't going to stack the way you want it to with everything else. And I usually don't get terribly concerned about form factor, and I'm certainly not about the bling, but from just a practical standpoint. One of the other things that I'll mention is I wear glasses constantly now, and some of the writing's a little difficult to read, so there's some usability issues. Nothing huge, but something to consider if you're somebody with eyes that are growing tired like mine are. it has the right amount of asymmetry in it as far as I'm concerned. I know everybody's bonkers over asymmetry and they want everybody to play completely differently, and this doesn't do that. This has every character kind of has their thing that they're good at and maybe something that they're weaker at. And I like that level of difference so that each character plays a little bit differently and you can kind of work to their strengths, you work to their weaknesses. The bad guys all are legitimately different, so that's something that you learn. As far as I like team games from that aspect, it's fine. It's not stunning. This is probably not a game that I would request. I certainly didn't mind playing it tonight, and I think we had good fun doing it, and there was, it was pretty lively. I mean, we kept things rolling. So at that point, it gets a pretty middle 7 for me. It's a good game. It's not a great game. And the packaging sure is nice. I like the use of the colors, and the art is very reasonable as far as I'm concerned. But it's not quite hitting a triple for me. So that's where I'd leave it. Cody, do you want to speak, or is your character so dead?
I think I'm still dead on the floor in the meeting room. Yeah, strangled by the giant flesh-eating plant.
Tentacles of the plant.
Weird name. Yeah, I mean, I like how the design is on this. It's got a lot of flavor in it. There's some lore behind the killers and the survivors that you don't need it, but it's nice that it's there. I think I've played almost every character and died as almost every character.
Nice.
And they all have pretty much the same actions. A couple of them have a different special action here or there, but they're not so different from each other. They kind of change your playstyle. If you have the engineer, you want to do the generator. If you have Anna, you want to sneak by and get keys. And so the killer can kind of get information from who you're playing as, is where they want to look for you, which is its own form of info that you can give them. But I enjoy it a lot. I will probably have to play as the killer next, so that
because nobody will have you as a teammate.
I think I'm kicked off the Survivor squad at this point. But I think I gotta give it just a real blood-curdling 7. It's not quite up there for me for higher.
What murderer do you think you're going to want to be?
I mean, I might bust out the unidentified or one of the new expansions. Maybe the statue.
The Huntress one looked kind of cool.
Yeah, she puts out traps and stuff.
Yeah, the art looked really cool on her at any rate.
Yeah.
But and when I first played as the baddie, I played the woman that screams just because her miniature is kind of cool the way it props up on her hoop dress. I thought that was
they did a good job with the miniatures.
Yeah, the miniatures for the aliens and hunters are really good.
They did some nice imagination on that.
The survivors, they're decent,
generic.
But yeah.
Nothing to write home about.
Points taken away because you can't put them back in the box with the colored rings they have on
Right,
them.
and it's so weird.
Yeah.
Little things.
Hopefully you can put the little core things or the plant things in there without having to break them down.
Good luck
sure
with
you
that.
can.
They were pretty tough to assemble. Yeah.
First aid box stays assembled.
As big as that box is, you think everything could fit.
So that was Terrorscape. Generally, we enjoyed it.